You walk through life believing you are a good person. You are honest, you are kind, and you trust that others are the same. You play by the rules you were taught, the rules of fairness and transparency. You believe this moral high ground is your strength, a shield that protects you from the world's darkness. But what if this belief, this very foundation of your goodness, is actually your greatest weakness? What if the shield you hold so dearly is made of glass, and you just haven't seen the cracks yet? We are taught from a young age that manipulation is evil. It's the tool of villains in movies, the weapon of tyrants in history books. We are told to be open books, to wear our hearts on our sleeves, because authenticity is the highest virtue. This story is comforting. It divides the world into a simple binary of the good, honest people and the bad, deceitful manipulators. We, of course, are the good people. We would never stoop so low. We believe this makes us safe. Think of your daily life. At work, you share your best ideas freely, assuming credit will be given where it is due. In your relationships, you reveal your deepest vulnerabilities, expecting them to be handled with care. You navigate disagreements by laying all your cards on the table, believing total honesty is the quickest path to a solution. You are playing a game of checkers, moving one piece at a time, in a world where everyone else is playing chess, thinking 10 moves ahead. This belief in pure, simple goodness feels right. It feels noble. It absolves you of the difficult task of seeing the world as it is, rather than as you wish it were. By condemning all forms of influence as manipulation, you place yourself above the fray. You feel clean, untainted by the messy reality of human ambition and power dynamics. But this feeling of purity comes at a steep, hidden cost. It is a blissful ignorance that leaves your doors unlocked and your windows wide open. You see someone who is politically savvy, who navigates social situations with effortless grace, and you label them manipulator. You see a leader who makes hard, unpopular decisions for a greater good, and you call them ruthless. These labels are easy. They protect your worldview. They affirm your choice to remain simple, to stay out of the game. But every time you do this, you are blinding yourself to a fundamental truth about how the world actually operates, a truth you desperately need to understand. The common lie is that naivete is a virtue, that being a lamb in a world of wolves is a sign of moral superiority. We are encouraged to be lambs, to be gentle and yielding. We are told that this is the path of the righteous. So you practice being a lamb. You avoid conflict. You give people the benefit of the doubt, always. You believe that your gentleness will be met with gentleness. You are waiting for a world that does not exist. You see success stories that reinforce this lie. The person who made it by just being relentlessly positive. The business that thrived on good vibes alone. These stories are exceptions, packaged and sold to keep you compliant. They are fairy tales for adults. They make you believe that you don't need to learn the hard lessons of power, strategy, and influence. They keep you hoping for a magical outcome instead of preparing you for the reality of the contest. So you go to your job and you work harder than anyone else. You pour your soul into a project. You present it to your team, explaining every detail with passion and honesty. You feel proud. You believe your hard work is undeniable and will be rewarded on its own merits. You are relying on the system to be fair, on people to be just, and on your effort to speak for itself. You have laid a perfect, beautiful sacrifice on an altar, and you are praying that the gods are watching. You end the day feeling content. You did the right thing. You were honest. You were open. You were vulnerable. You go to sleep with a clear conscience, secure in your moral standing. This feeling of being good is your reward. You believe this is enough. But a quiet, nagging feeling begins to stir in the back of your mind. A feeling that you are running in place. A sense that despite all your goodness, you are not moving forward. You push the feeling down. This is the comfortable prison of the idealist. You are locked in a cage made of your own high-minded principles. It is a beautiful cage, adorned with the virtues of trust and transparency. But it is a cage nonetheless. And from within it, you cannot see the strategist who is studying the lock. You cannot see the pragmatist who is walking right past the cage on their way to building a kingdom. You are safe, but you are also stuck. And the unraveling is about to begin. The first crack appears. At work, your boss announces the leader for the new project. It's the colleague who listened quietly to all your ideas, nodding and smiling. They present your concepts as their own, but with a strategic political spin you never considered. They get the promotion. You get a polite thank you for your contribution. Your honesty was used as a resource. Your openness was a vulnerability they expertly exploited. The feeling of unfairness is sharp and cold. The doubt begins to creep in. You trusted them. You assumed a level playing field. But the game was never level. You were playing to collaborate, they were playing to win. You begin to question your core belief. Was your honesty a mistake? Was your transparency a tactical error? The comfortable binary of good people and bad people starts to blur. They are not a cackling villain. They are just more effective. And that thought is more terrifying than simple evil. You confide in a friend, sharing your frustration and sense of betrayal. You lay out your raw emotions, your hurt, and your anger. You are vulnerable, seeking comfort and validation. A few weeks later, you hear your own words, your own private feelings, being discussed by others in your social circle. Your moment of vulnerability was turned into a piece of interesting gossip. The safe space you believed in was just a waiting room for public opinion. The mask of contentment you have worn for so long begins to feel heavy. It cracks at the edges. You look in the mirror and you don't see a good person anymore. You see a fool. You see someone who has been willingly handing power away, day after day, in exchange for a feeling of righteousness that has left you with nothing. The reflection that stares back at you is tired, disillusioned, and weak. The world is not what you thought it was. You start noticing it everywhere. The subtle ways people gain advantage. The compliment that is also a veiled command. The favor that is actually a way of creating debt. The strategic sharing of information to shape a narrative. It's a silent language you never knew how to speak. The world suddenly seems like a much more complex and dangerous place. You feel like a tourist who has just realized they can't read any of the signs. A question starts to form in your mind, a dangerous and unsettling question. What if the people who succeed are not the best or the most honest? What if they are simply the ones who best understand human nature? The ones who know that fear, desire, and ego are levers that can move the world? What if your refusal to touch those levers is not a moral strength, but a crippling disadvantage that has been holding you back your entire life? This path of disillusionment is lonely. Your old beliefs offer no comfort. Your friends who still live in that black and white world don't understand your growing cynicism. They tell you to stay positive and be the bigger person. Their advice now sounds hollow and naive. You are beginning to see the matrix, the hidden code of power and influence that runs beneath the surface of every single human interaction. And it is isolating. You are on a treadmill. You run faster, you work harder, you are kinder. But your position never changes. The landscape remains the same. The people who started behind you are now ahead of you. They are not running faster. They are simply on a different path, a path you were told not to take, a path that involved strategy, not just effort. Your sweat and exhaustion have been for nothing. You are going nowhere. You start to see invisible chains on your own wrists. They are chains forged from your own ideals. The chain of always being nice. The chain of never making anyone uncomfortable. The chain of believing the best in everyone. Each link is a noble sentiment that has limited your movement, silenced your voice, and restricted your power. You realize you have been your own jailer, trapping yourself in the name of a virtue that has only served to make you controllable. Then, a different voice enters the conversation, a whisper from history, a man named Machiavelli. You were taught he was a teacher of evil, a whisperer to tyrants. His name itself is a synonym for cunning and deceit. Everything you were taught to fear. But in your desperation, his forbidden ideas seem less like a threat and more like a potential key. What if he wasn't teaching evil, but was simply describing the world as it truly is? The lie is that you have two choices: be a predator or be prey. Be a wolf or be a lamb. Machiavelli's brutal truth suggests a third option. Don't be the lamb that gets eaten. And don't be the wolf that blindly attacks. Be the shepherd. The shepherd understands the wolf and protects the flock. The shepherd has a staff. The shepherd uses intelligence, foresight, and a healthy dose of fear to maintain order and achieve their goals. The goal is not predation, but control. Your mind recoils at first. This sounds cold, calculated. In a perfect world, we wouldn't need shepherds and staffs. We would all just coexist peacefully. But you look at your own life, at your own defeats, and you are forced to admit the world is not perfect. You have been acting like a sheep, hoping the wolves will stick to their side of the forest. This strategy has failed repeatedly. The idea of picking up a staff, of learning to be strategic, feels both terrifying and necessary. You start re-examining your past interactions through this new Machiavellian lens. The colleague didn't just steal your idea, they understood the prince, the boss, values loyalty and concise presentation over raw, messy creativity. Your friend didn't just gossip, they used a shared secret to increase their social capital and bond with others. These weren't random acts of meanness. They were strategic moves in a game you didn't even know you were playing. The feeling is not anger anymore. It's a cold, clear understanding, a sense of awakening. You have been living in a dream, and the harsh light of reality is pouring in. Your moral framework wasn't wrong. It was just incomplete. It was a map of a small, safe island that gave you no information about the vast, treacherous ocean surrounding it. To navigate that ocean, you need a different set of tools. You need a compass, a sextant, and an understanding of the tides. The first doubt has now bloomed into a full-blown crisis of faith. You question everything you were taught about being a, quote, person. Is goodness measured by your intentions or by your results? Can you truly do good in the world if you are powerless? If you are constantly outmaneuvered by those less idealistic than you? Can you protect those you care about if you refuse to understand the weapons that will be used against them? The old answers are no longer sufficient. The world hasn't changed. The people around you haven't changed. The only thing that has changed is your perception. It's like you were colorblind and have suddenly been given the ability to see the full spectrum. You now see the subtle hues of ambition, the shades of influence, the tones of self-interest that color every interaction. The world is not less beautiful, but it is infinitely more complex. And for the first time, you feel an urge not to run from this complexity, but to understand it. You think about nature. A lion is not evil for hunting the gazelle. It is acting according to its nature to survive. A river is not cruel for carving a canyon out of stone. It is simply following the path of least resistance with relentless force. Machiavelli argued that human politics is a force of nature. It is not good or evil, it simply is. To pretend it doesn't exist is like standing in the path of a flood and hoping your good intentions will keep you dry. The fear you felt is slowly being replaced by a strange sense of empowerment. The knowledge that was once forbidden now feels like a weapon waiting to be claimed. If the world is a game of chess, you have been playing with only pawns, but you now realize you have access to all the other pieces. The knight, the bishop, the rook, the queen, they have been on your side of the board all along, but you refuse to see them, refuse to learn their moves. This is the turning point, the end of the victim and the beginning of the strategist. You understand that your frustration was not with the world, but with your own inadequate understanding of it. You were trying to build a house with a hammer when the job required a blueprint, a level, and a full set of tools. The problem wasn't the hammer. The problem was thinking the hammer was all you needed. Now you are ready to open the toolbox. The unraveling is complete. The comfortable lie lies in shattered pieces around you. The world seems darker, more dangerous, but also more real. You are no longer a child in a fairy tale. You are an adult waking up to the complexities of reality. You are standing at the threshold of a new understanding, ready to hear the core, brutal truth not as a condemnation, but as a guide. You are ready to learn from Machiavelli. Here is the core revelation, the brutal truth from Machiavelli. Power is the currency of humanity. It is not good or bad, it is just the medium of exchange. Every relationship, every organization, every society is an arena of competing interests. To ignore this reality, to pretend that goodwill alone is sufficient, is to choose to be irrelevant. It is to choose to be a leaf in the wind rather than the hand that sets the sail. Manipulation, then, is not about evil. It is about the conscious use of influence to achieve a desired outcome. You use it when you persuade a friend to see a movie you like. A charity uses it when they show you a sad picture to get a donation. A leader uses it when they give a speech to inspire a nation. The question is not whether you will use this tool. The question is whether you will use it skillfully and for a purpose you deem worthy. Machiavelli famously said it is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both. This is not an endorsement of cruelty. It is a pragmatic observation of human nature. Love is fickle. It is based on feelings that can change. Fear, in this context, means respect. It means people understand there are consequences for crossing you. It is a recognition of your strength and your boundaries. A respected person's no is final. A loved person's no is often seen as a starting point for negotiation. To be effective, you must separate your public persona from your private self. The face you show the world should be a tool, crafted to suit the occasion. This is not being fake, it is being strategic. You don't show the same face to your child that you show to a business rival. You don't use the same language with a grieving friend as you do in a tense negotiation. The wise prince has a wardrobe of masks and knows which one to wear for every scene in the play. The world respects strength, not good intentions. Your noble goals, your desire to create positive change, are meaningless without the power to enact them. A brilliant plan to feed the hungry is useless without the political skill to secure funding and the logistical savvy to distribute the food. Idealism without pragmatism is just a daydream. To truly do good, you must be willing to engage with the world of power as it is, not as you wish it to be. You must learn to see people's self-interest, not to judge it, but to understand it. Almost every action a person takes is driven by a desire to gain something: security, status, wealth, love, or to avoid a loss. If you can understand what someone truly wants, you hold the key to predicting their behavior and influencing their decisions. Stop listening only to what people say and start paying attention to what their actions reveal about their deep-seated motivations. Fortune, Machiavelli said, is like a river. It can be a destructive flood. When it rages, you are helpless. But in times of calm, the wise ruler builds dams and levees. They prepare. You cannot control luck, but you can control your response to it. By building skills, networks, and resources when times are good, you fortify yourself against the inevitable moment when your luck turns. The naive person hopes for good weather. The pragmatist builds a strong house. Embrace the idea that ends can justify the means. This is the most controversial of his ideas, but also the most misunderstood. It is not a license for evil. It is a challenge to think about consequences. If a small lie prevents a great harm, is it not justified? If a calculated, tough decision leads to a lasting peace, is it not better than a passive inaction that allows for chaos? It forces you to weigh your actions not by their immediate moral purity, but by their ultimate outcome. This is the aha moment. You realize that you have been given the wrong map. The world is not a morality play. It is a political landscape. Understanding influence is not a moral failing. It is a fundamental survival skill. It is the art of getting things done. It is the science of protecting yourself and your values in a competitive world. Your goodness was never enough, because goodness without strength is easily defeated. True virtue requires both a noble heart and a capable hand. You finally understand the chessboard. The king is your goal, the queen is your power, the rooks are your resources, the knights are your unorthodox strategies, the bishops are your allies and networks, and the pawns are your everyday actions, which can be sacrificed for a greater strategic purpose. To win, you cannot just love your pieces. You must be willing to deploy them, to risk them, and sometimes to lose them for the sake of the checkmate. The person who betrayed you at work wasn't your enemy. They were simply a better player. The friend who gossiped wasn't a bad person. They were just unskilled in managing social currency. This shift in perspective removes the emotional sting of victimhood and replaces it with a cold, analytical desire to learn. You no longer see personal attacks, you see tactical moves, and a move, once understood, can be countered. Powerlessness corrupts just as much as power. When you feel you have no agency, you become bitter, resentful, and passive-aggressive. You complain instead of create. You criticize instead of build. By refusing to engage with the tools of power, you don't become more moral. You often become more toxic. Claiming your own power, learning to be effective, is not just for achieving goals, it is for your own psychological health. It is the antidote to the poison of helplessness. The truth is, you have been manipulating people your whole life, you just did it badly. When you sulked to get your way, that was manipulation. When you used guilt to persuade someone, that was manipulation. The difference is that you were acting unconsciously, driven by raw emotion. Machiavelli's wisdom is not an invitation to start manipulating, but to start doing it consciously, with skill, and in the service of a clear, chosen purpose. It is the move from amateur to professional. This knowledge is a heavy burden. It shatters your simple view of the world. It forces you to see the hidden motives and power plays in everything. You can never go back to blissful ignorance. But it is also a source of immense freedom. You are no longer a puppet whose strings are being pulled by forces you don't understand. You can finally see the strings, and once you see them, you can begin to learn how to pull them yourself. Stop waiting for a savior. Stop waiting for the system to be fair. Stop waiting for people to do the right thing. The prince, the ruler of your life, is you. You are responsible for your own defense. You are responsible for acquiring the resources you need. You are responsible for advancing your own interests. This is not selfish. It is the fundamental duty of a sovereign being. You are the king or queen of your own small kingdom of one. The ultimate goal of understanding Machiavelli is not to become a tyrant over others, but to become the master of yourself. To master your emotions so they don't dictate your actions. To master your words so they have the intended effect. To master your strategy so you can navigate the world with purpose and grace. It is the path to becoming formidable. Not to dominate, but to ensure you are never dominated. The world is a great and terrible machine. It has gears of power, levers of influence, and currents of self-interest. The naive person gets crushed by the machine. The resentful person screams at the machine. The Machiavellian realist learns to be a mechanic. They study the machine, understand its workings, and learn how to operate it to get where they need to go. They don't have to love the machine, but they respect its power. So you look at your life, the promotion you want, the relationship you want to improve, the community project you want to start. Your good intentions are the spark, but they are not the fire. The fire is strategy. It is understanding the people involved, anticipating their reactions, presenting your ideas in a way that aligns with their interests, and building coalitions. This is not slimy, this is effective. This is how things get done. This revelation is the true beginning of your power. It's the moment you stop asking the world for permission. You stop hoping for fairness and start creating your own leverage. You stop being a passive observer in your own life and become an active participant. You are no longer just a piece on the board. You are a player. You are awake. And you are ready to make your first move. You have broken the chains of your own idealism. The pieces of the shattered cage are behind you. The path forward is not easy. It is not guaranteed, but it is a path of your own choosing. The brutal truth has not broken you. It has armed you. It has given you the gift of sight in a world of the blind. The age of the lamb is over. The age of the shepherd begins now. This new path is difficult. Your first attempts at being strategic will be clumsy. When you set a boundary for the first time, your voice might shake. When you choose your words carefully instead of blurting out your raw emotion, it will feel unnatural. People who are used to your old, compliant self will be confused. They may even accuse you of being cold or calculating. This is the resistance you must push through. This is the price of strength. You are faced with a choice. There are two roads. One is a wide, paved, brightly lit highway. It's crowded with smiling, agreeable people. It's an easy walk, but it leads to a gray, uniform city where everyone is the same. The other path is a narrow, rocky trail up a dark mountain. It is a lonely path. The climb is hard. But it leads to a summit with a panoramic view of the entire world. Which path will you choose? You start with small things. You learn to say no without a long, apologetic explanation. You simply say, "I'm not able to do that." At work, instead of sharing a raw idea, you think about who needs to hear it and how they need to hear it before you speak. You observe meetings more than you talk, analyzing the dynamics before you contribute. Each small act is a rep in the gym of power, building a muscle you never knew you had. Some friends will fall away. The ones who benefited from your lack of boundaries will resent the new you. The ones who needed you to be their victim so they could feel like a savior will feel lost. The ones who only value simplistic, surface-level goodness will not understand your newfound complexity. Letting them go will be painful, but it is a necessary pruning. It makes space for allies who respect your strength, not those who profited from your weakness. You begin to build your fortress. Not a fortress of stone to keep people out, but a fortress of mind. You read. You study history, psychology, strategy. You learn to detach emotionally from insults and praise, seeing both as mere information. You develop a core set of principles that are unshakable, so your tactics can be flexible. Your strength is no longer in your naivete, but in your deep and growing understanding of the world. Then you have a breakthrough. You face a situation that would have defeated the old you, a political challenge at work, a manipulative person in your life. But this time, you don't react with emotion. You observe, you analyze, you plan your move, you use leverage, you speak with quiet authority. And you win. Not a loud, gloating victory, but a quiet, decisive one. The feeling is not of triumph, but of profound, calm competence. This new strength allows you to be genuinely kinder. Before, your kindness was often a form of weakness, a fear of conflict. Now you can choose to be generous from a position of strength, not obligation. You can protect the truly vulnerable because you are no longer vulnerable yourself. You can afford to be magnanimous in victory. The shepherd, secure in their power, has no need to be cruel to the wolf or the sheep. You learn the difference between being liked and being respected. Being liked is pleasant but unreliable. It requires you to constantly please others. Being respected is powerful. It requires you to be consistent, competent, and to enforce your boundaries. You stop chasing the fleeting warmth of being popular and start cultivating the enduring strength of being a figure of substance. People now come to you not for favors, but for your judgment. The struggle is constant. The temptation to revert to the easy path, to raw emotion, to simplistic idealism is always there. The mountain path is steep and the air is thin. Every day is a test of your resolve. But with every step, your vision becomes clearer. You see the patterns of the world with greater clarity. The loneliness of the path is balanced by the incredible perspective you gain from the altitude. You realize that true freedom isn't the absence of constraints. It's the ability to choose your own. You have traded the invisible chains of naivety for the visible tools of discipline and strategy. You are no longer tossed about by the whims of others. Your life is no longer a series of reactions. It is a campaign, a project, a deliberate creation. You are the architect, the general, the prince of your own reality. Look back at the person you were, the naive, trusting, constantly disappointed idealist. You don't feel scorn for them. You feel a sense of compassion. They were doing the best they could with the map they were given. But you have a new map now. A more accurate, more detailed, and far more useful map of the terrain. You have honored that past self not by staying where they were, but by undertaking the journey they were too afraid to begin. This transformation is not about becoming a monster. It is about understanding the monster, both in the world and within yourself, so that you can keep it on a leash. It is about integrating your shadow, your capacity for ruthlessness and calculation, so that it serves your higher goals instead of erupting in moments of uncontrolled weakness. A truly good person is not one who is incapable of harm, but one who has a great capacity for it and chooses not to use it. The world is still a dangerous place. The wolves are still out there. But you no longer fear them. You understand them. You can anticipate their moves. You can protect your flock, and you can stand your ground. You carry a staff not for aggression, but for security. You have become the shepherd. You have embraced the brutal truth, and it has made you strong. You have climbed the mountain. The struggle has forged you into something new. You are not the happy, ignorant person you were at the beginning. You are not the angry, disillusioned person you were in the middle. You are something else entirely. You are calm. You are aware. You are capable. You have found a peace, not in ignorance, but in understanding. A power not in aggression, but in competence. Your journey of transformation is a testament to the power of truth, even when it is brutal. It shows that facing reality, in all its harshness, is the only path to genuine strength and freedom. The easy lies of comfort and naivete only lead to a gilded cage. The hard path of truth, though lonely and difficult, leads to the summit. Now, you must integrate this new power into your life. So we bring this journey back to you. Right now, look at your life. Where have you been the lamb? Where have you been choosing deliberate naivete because the truth of the power dynamics felt too uncomfortable? Where have you been handing your power away in exchange for the title of nice person? The first step is to be brutally honest with yourself. Acknowledge the moments you have been outplayed. You hold the key to your own transformation. It starts not with a grand gesture, but with a small shift in perception. Start observing. In your next meeting, your next family gathering, your next negotiation, just watch. Listen to what is not being said. Watch how people align themselves. Look for the currents of self-interest beneath the surface of the conversation. Don't act. Don't judge. Just see. This is your first step to becoming a student of power. The journey from lie to truth is the most important one you will ever take. You have moved from the lie that goodness is weakness to the truth that effective goodness requires strength. You have moved from seeing manipulation as pure evil to seeing strategic influence as a necessary tool. You have moved from being a pawn of fortune to becoming a prince in your own right, building levees against the river of fate. This power is not a guarantee of happiness. It is a tool for effectiveness. It will make your life harder in some ways. You will see things you cannot unsee, but it will also make you the author of your own story. You will no longer be a secondary character in someone else's play. You will be the protagonist, making difficult choices, facing real challenges, and striving for a purpose that you define for yourself. Embrace this challenge. Do not shy away from the complexity of the world. Do not retreat into the false comfort of simple ideals. Your potential is not found in your innocence, but in your capacity to see the world clearly and act within it decisively. You are capable of being both good and strong. In fact, in the world we live in, you cannot truly be one without the other. The ultimate freedom is to be the calm eye in the hurricane, to see the chaos of human ambition, fear, and desire swirling around you, but to remain centered, purposeful, and effective. This is the peace that Machiavelli offers. Not the peace of the graveyard, but the peace of the master strategist who understands the battlefield and is confident in their ability to navigate it. So, the next time you face a challenge, ask yourself the Machiavellian questions. What do they really want? What is my leverage? What is the most effective long-term strategy, even if it's difficult in the short term? How can I be feared, respected, enough to protect my interests? By asking these questions, you are not becoming evil. You are becoming wise. You are choosing to be a player, not a piece. Remember the shepherd. Their power comes from their understanding of the whole environment. They protect the flock, they respect the wolf, and they master the terrain. This is your new model, a model of responsible, strategic power. Use it to protect your values. Use it to achieve your goals. Use it to build a life of purpose and substance, safe from the whims of those who would use your goodness against you. The brutal truth about manipulation is that it is simply a word for the mechanics of influence. To fear the word is to fear understanding how your world works. To understand it is to gain your freedom. The choice is, and always has been, yours. Will you remain a well-intentioned victim, or will you become a well-armed idealist, capable of turning your vision into reality? The world will not change for you. It will not suddenly become fair. It will not reward you for your passive virtue. You must change for the world, not by abandoning your morals, but by arming them with intelligence, strategy, and an unflinching understanding of human nature. This is the final lesson. This is the beginning of your real life.